Have you ever felt that you were born not as a person, but as a project? Before you could even speak, there was already a seat at the table waiting for you, a role you didn't audition for, yet one you were expected to play with perfection. In the high-walled halls of Che-Ting Pass, the air was always heavy with the scent of old wood and the metallic tang of sharpened bronze. General Li Jing did not want a child. He wanted a legacy. He wanted a soldier who would carry the weight of the family name like a shield against the world. And then came Nezha. Not as a soft, crying infant, but as a bowl of flesh, glowing with a heat that made the very air shimmer. When the sword sliced the sphere open, a boy stepped out. He was beautiful, he was powerful, and in that very first moment, looking into his father's cold, assessing eyes, the boy realized the most terrifying truth of all. He was not a son to be held, he was a miracle to be managed. The childhood of a miracle is a lonely thing. While other children played in the dirt, Nezha practiced the art of the spear. His feet were light, his movements like flickering flames, but his heart was a stone sinking in a deep well. He wore the red armillary sash, a gift from the heavens, but to him, it felt like a leash. Every victory in training was met with a nod. Every mistake was met with a silence so heavy it could crush a mountain. He ate his meals at the far end of the long mahogany table. He watched the steam rise from his bowl of rice, the white grains blurred by the heat radiating from his own skin. He was never just Nezha. He was the third son, the gifted one, the weapon. He learned early that his value was tied to his utility. If he was strong, he was tolerated. If he was perfect, he was seen. But he was never ever just okay. The storm began long before the clouds gathered. It started in the quiet friction between a boy who needed a father and a father who needed a hero. Nezha walked along the East Sea, the sand hot beneath his feet. He looked at the waves, endless, shifting, free to crash and free to retreat. He felt the fire within him churning, a restless energy that had no home. He had spent years building a wall of strength to protect the small, shivering part of himself that just wanted to be told he was enough. But walls have a way of becoming prisons. He stood at the edge of the water, the wind whipping his hair, realizing that the more he succeeded, the more invisible he became. The world saw the flame, but they never saw the wood that was being burned away to keep the fire alive. One afternoon, the ocean boiled. A dragon prince, arrogant and draped in coral, rose from the depths to demand tribute. For Nezha, this wasn't just a battle, it was an exit. He fought with a ferocity that terrified even the gods. He didn't just defeat the dragon, he unmade him. He returned home with the dragon's tendon in his hand, a trophy of blood and bone, expecting for the first time to see pride in his father's eyes. Instead, he found fear, and then anger. Li Jing looked at his son and saw a monster he couldn't control. The father didn't see the boy who had fought for him. He saw the liability that would bring the wrath of the Dragon Kings upon their house. "You have ruined us," the general whispered. And in that moment, the armor Nezha had worn since birth, the armor of the strong one, finally cracked. In the quiet rooms of our own lives, many of us carry this same invisible burden. We are the ones who have it all together. We are the ones who don't break, who don't ask for help, who are always the pillars for everyone else to lean on. In psychology, we call this the role of the strong one. It is a specific, grinding exhaustion that comes from being necessary to everyone and known by no one. It is a role often assigned in childhood, to the child who had to be the mediator, the high achiever, or the emotional rock for a parent who couldn't steady themselves. You learn that your vulnerability is a threat to the system, so you bury it. You become a miracle of resilience. But the truth is, what the world calls strength is often just a very high capacity for loneliness. Nezha stood in the courtyard as the 4 dragon kings descended, their shadows blotting out the sun. They demanded his life for the life of the prince. His father, the man he had spent his entire existence trying to please, handed him the sword, not to defend him, but to end the problem. This is the hard truth of the strong one. You cannot find safety in the people who only love you for your strength. If your value is based on what you can do, then the moment you stop doing, you cease to exist to them. Nezha looked at the blade. He looked at his father's face, which was as rigid as the laws of the heavens. He realized he had been running a race toward a finish line that kept moving. True wisdom cannot be taught to a mask. Nezha did something that day that the legends still whisper about. He didn't fight the dragons. He didn't beg for mercy. He took the sword, and with a terrifying, calm clarity, he began to return what was given. "Flesh from my mother," he said, carving his own skin. "Bone from my father." He dismantled the identity that had been forced upon him. He tore down the house of flesh to see if there was anything left underneath. It was an act of horrific violence, yes, but it was also the first time he was truly free. He was no longer a son, no longer a soldier, no longer a weapon. He was nothing, and in being nothing, he became the possibility of everything. He returned the gift of life to those who had made it a debt. We are rarely asked to perform such a literal sacrifice, but many of us reach a point where we must return the bones. We must hand back the expectations of our parents, the demands of our careers, and the masks we wore to survive our childhoods. It is a painful shedding. It feels like dying, because the person you thought you were, the strong one, the special one, is indeed passing away. But there is a secret to this ending. When you stop being what they need, you finally have the space to find out what you are. The lotus does not grow in clean water. It grows in the mud. It grows in the messy, dark reality of things as they are, not as they were promised to be. The courtyard grew silent. The dragons retreated, satisfied by the blood. The general stood alone among the ruins of his legacy. But in the pond nearby, something stirred. A lotus began to bloom, its petals a pale, ethereal pink, vibrating with a light that did not burn. From the heart of the flower, a new boy emerged. He looked the same, yet he was weightless. He no longer carried the heat of 1,000 expectations. He walked across the water, his footsteps leaving no ripples. He didn't look back at the house, or the father, or the name he had left behind. He simply walked into the mist of the morning. The journey does not begin when you find your strength. It begins when you are brave enough to let it go.